The Soul's Secret Journey, the 13 Sacred Days After Death, according to Yogananda. Did you know that at this very moment, while you're listening to these words, there are souls who have just departed from this world and are living through the most important days of their entire existence? Souls who can see you, who try to communicate with you, but whom you cannot perceive. What if I told you that for exactly 13 days after death, the soul remains in a unique state, a sacred limbo where it decides its eternal destiny? Today I will reveal to you one of the deepest mysteries that Paramahansa Yogananda shared with humanity, the secret journey that each soul must undertake during those 13 crucial days after abandoning the physical body. Stay until the end, because what you will discover could forever change your understanding of life, death, and the destiny of all those you have loved and lost. When someone close to us departs toward the unknown, our heart plunges into an ocean of questions. Where is that beloved soul now? Can it hear our tears? Does it feel our pain? Or does it perhaps wander lost in dimensions we cannot comprehend? Death, that word that makes even the bravest tremble, is not the end we believe it to be. Paramahansa Yogananda, the great spiritual master who illuminated the West with the ancestral wisdom of the East, reveals to us that death is simply the moment when the soul detaches from its physical garment, like someone taking off an old coat to put on a new one. But what happens immediately afterward is what really matters. The soul does not disappear into nothingness, nor does it immediately head toward the light. Instead, it enters what Yogananda describes as the intermediate state, or seed state, a delicate and crucial phase that will last exactly 13 earthly days. The first moments, awakening in confusion. Imagine for a moment that you wake from a deep sleep, but your body doesn't respond. You can see, you can hear, you can think, but no one sees or hears you. This is exactly what the soul experiences in its first moments after separation from the physical body. Yogananda explained that when the soul abandons its bodily dwelling, it initially doesn't understand what has occurred. It finds itself in a state of profound disorientation. It sees its own lifeless body and wonders with anguish. Why are they crying? I'm here. I can see them. I can speak to them. The soul attempts to touch its loved ones, to embrace them, to console them in their pain, but its ethereal hands pass through physical bodies as if they were air. This moment of realization is, according to Yogananda, one of the most painful in the entire spiritual journey. The feeling of helplessness and separation can cause indescribable suffering to the newly liberated soul. During these first instants, souls that cultivated a deep connection with meditation, prayer, and spiritual seeking during their earthly life find it easier to accept this transition. Their expanded consciousness allows them to quickly understand their new state. However, those souls that lived completely immersed in the material world, attached only to physical pleasures and earthly possessions, experience terror and confusion. The first 3 days, clinging to home. During the first 3 days after death, the soul remains strongly tied to its earthly home. It cannot move away. It's as if invisible threads keep it bound to the places and people it loved most during its incarnation. The soul wanders through the family home, observing every detail with a clarity it never had in life. It sees its own photographs surrounded by flowers, hears the prayers offered in its honor, witnesses the tears of pain from its loved ones. But it also perceives something more. It feels the emotions of each person with overwhelming intensity. Yogananda revealed that during these days, the soul can experience both vibrations of love and those of guilt, resentment, or sadness that emanate from those left behind. If family members are plunged into inconsolable grief or in conflicts over inheritances and possessions, the soul absorbs these negative energies, which can seriously obstruct its spiritual progress. For this reason, the spiritual traditions of all cultures have developed specific rituals for these first days. They are not merely empty ceremonies, but sacred practices designed to send energies of peace, love, and liberation to the soul in transition. From the 4th to the 7th day, the awakening of consciousness. Between the 4th and 7th day, a fundamental transformation occurs in the soul's consciousness. It gradually begins to accept its new reality and explore the possibilities of its post-mortem existence. During this phase, a natural division occurs among souls. Those that remain strongly tied to earthly desires, unresolved passions, conflictive relationships, or unfulfilled dreams tend to maintain states of agitation. They desperately cling to this world, resisting continuing their journey. Yogananda observed that these souls can become stuck for periods much longer than the traditional 13 days. Some remain linked to specific places for years, even decades, becoming what we commonly know as presences or ghosts. They are not malevolent entities, but lost souls that have not managed to free themselves from their earthly attachments. Conversely, souls that during their life cultivated detachment, compassion, and spiritual seeking begin to perceive a subtle light that calls them forward. This light is not simply a poetic metaphor. According to Yogananda, it is a real emanation of divine energy that acts as a beacon guiding the soul toward its next destiny. At this stage also appears what Yogananda called the celestial guide. It may manifest as a being of light, a spiritual master, an angel, or even as a familiar form that the soul can recognize and trust. This guide does not force the soul to advance, but patiently waits for it to make the decision to free itself from its earthly bonds. From the 8th to the 10th day, the life review. The 8th, 9th, and 10th days mark one of the most intense and revealing phases of the post-mortem journey. During this period, the soul experiences what Yogananda describes as the Great Review, a process where the entire recently concluded life unfolds before the soul's consciousness, like a cosmic movie. This is not a passive experience. The soul not only observes the events of its life, but relives them from multiple perspectives. It experiences each action, each word, each thought, not only from its own point of view, but also from the perspective of all people who were affected by its decisions. If during its earthly life the soul caused pain to others, it now experiences that same pain firsthand. If it provided love and compassion, it feels the joy and relief it provided. This process is not divine punishment, but a sacred opportunity for total understanding. Yogananda emphasized that this review period allows the soul to objectively evaluate its spiritual progress. It clearly sees what lessons it learned which remained pending, what karmas it created, and which it managed to resolve. It is a moment of profound introspection that largely determines the direction the soul will take in its next phase of existence. Souls that embrace this truth with humility and acceptance find that their path becomes clear and luminous. They understand their mistakes without falling into destructive guilt and recognize their virtues without feeding the ego. However, those that resist this revelation, that deny their responsibilities or cling to illusory justifications, experience turbulence and confusion in later stages. If this spiritual message is touching your heart and you wish to deepen into these sacred mysteries, I invite you to join our spiritual family at the Camino Karma Divino channel. Each week we share transformative teachings that can illuminate your spiritual path and prepare you for the great journey we all must undertake. Subscribe now and activate notifications so you don't miss any revelation that could change your life. The 11th to 13th days, the final test. The last 3 days of the transition period represent the definitive test for the soul. It is during these crucial days that its immediate destiny is determined, whether it will reincarnate quickly driven by unresolved desires, ascend to superior planes of existence, or remain in intermediate states of purification. The 11th day marks the beginning of what Yogananda called the cosmic choice. The soul, having completely reviewed its past life and understood the lessons learned and pending, must make fundamental decisions about its spiritual future. During the 12th day, several options for reincarnation or evolution are presented to it. It can see potential families where it could be born, different life circumstances that would offer the necessary opportunities for its spiritual growth, or alternative paths in superior planes of consciousness. The 13th day is decisive. The soul must commit to a specific direction. This is why Vedic traditions and many other spiritual cultures have established the 13th day as the culminating moment of funeral rituals. It is not coincidence or cultural superstition. It is the recognition of a profound spiritual truth. On this final day, prayers, offerings, and ceremonies performed by the loved ones of the deceased soul have special power. They can positively influence the soul's decisions, providing it with the additional spiritual energy necessary to choose the highest possible path according to its level of evolution. The power of prayers and loving intervention. Yogananda repeatedly insisted that the living have a sacred responsibility towards souls in transition. During these 13 critical days, sincere prayers, dedicated meditations, and acts of service performed in honor of the deceased soul can have profound and lasting effects on its spiritual journey. However, not any type of prayer is effective. Excessive lamentations, selfish clinging to the soul, or empty rituals performed merely by social tradition can actually hinder the soul's progress. What really helps are vibrations of pure love, conscious liberation, and blessings for the soul's greatest spiritual good. Yogananda specifically recommended certain practices during these days. Chanting of divine names, the repetition of sacred mantras like Aum, Ram, or the name of any venerated divinity creates purifying vibrations that nourish the soul in transition. Dedicated meditation, periods of silent meditation where thoughts of peace, light, and love are consciously sent toward the deceased soul. Acts of charity, donating the deceased's belongings to people in need or performing acts of service in their honor, generates positive karma that directly benefits the soul on its journey. Sacred fire ceremony, Vedic rituals involving sacred fire, havan or yajna, performed with sincere devotion, not as mere formality, have the power to transmute dense energies and elevate the soul's vibration. Conscious liberation. Perhaps most importantly, loved ones must consciously release the soul, giving it permission to continue its journey without the burden of guilt for leaving behind its family members. The journey to new dimensions. After the 13th day, the soul enters what Yogananda described as the karmic interval, a period where it experiences the direct consequences of its past actions before deciding the parameters of its next incarnation. This phase can last from a few months to several centuries, depending on the soul's level of spiritual evolution and the complexity of its pending karmas. During this time, the soul inhabits what traditions call subtle planes, dimensions of existence that are not composed of physical matter, but of pure mental and emotional energy. The superior planes, often referred to as heavens in popular terms, are states of consciousness characterized by peace, joy, and expanded knowledge. Here, souls can reflect on their past lives, study elevated spiritual truths, and consciously prepare for their next incarnations. The inferior planes, commonly known as hells, are not places of eternal punishment but temporary states where souls experience the consequences of past actions that cause suffering to others. Yogananda clarified that these states, although they can be intensely painful, are educational and purifying, not punitive. The sacred process of reincarnation. When the time for reincarnation arrives, the soul actively participates in choosing its next life circumstances. This is not a random process or one imposed from the outside, but a conscious decision based on the soul's evolutionary needs. The soul carefully selects several crucial factors. The birth family. It chooses parents whose genetic, psychological, and spiritual characteristics will provide the most appropriate bodily vehicle and emotional environment for its karmic lessons. The cultural and geographical context. It decides the country, culture, economic situation, and historical period that will offer the experiences necessary for its growth. Karmic relationships. Many souls choose to reincarnate together with other souls with whom they have pending karmic debts or mutual lessons to complete. Specific challenges. The soul may choose certain physical, emotional, or circumstantial limitations that will serve as catalysts for the development of specific virtues like patience, compassion, or fortitude. Life purpose. Each incarnation has a specific dharma, a unique purpose that the soul seeks to fulfill to advance in its spiritual evolution. The selection of the maternal womb. One of the most fascinating aspects of Yogananda's teachings is his description of the process by which the soul selects and enters the maternal womb. This is not a casual event, but a highly synchronized process that requires precise vibrational alignment between the incoming soul and the consciousness of the receiving mother. The soul is naturally attracted to a mother whose mental, emotional, and spiritual state during conception resonates with its own karmic needs. This explains why certain mothers attract highly evolved souls while others may attract souls that need to work on specific challenges. During the 9 months of gestation, a gradual but profound process occurs. The soul begins to consciously forget its past lives, allowing a kind of veil of forgetfulness to descend over its memory. This forgetting is not accidental but merciful, as it allows the soul to experience its new life with freshness and without the burden of past memories that could interfere with its new lessons. However, Yogananda explained that some highly developed souls retain fragments of memory from past lives. This explains why certain children show extraordinary talents from an early age or possess wisdom and maturity that seem to exceed their current experience. Spiritual families and karmic encounters. One of Yogananda's most moving revelations is that souls do not travel alone through multiple incarnations. There exist what he called spiritual families, groups of souls that have chosen to evolve together through numerous lives, taking different roles in each incarnation. In one life, 2 souls may be mother and son. In the next, spouses. In another, siblings or best friends. They may even incarnate as adversaries if they need to resolve karmic conflicts or learn specific lessons about forgiveness and understanding. This perspective explains those instantaneous connections we sometimes feel with certain people, that immediate sensation of familiarity, trust, or even aversion without apparent reason. They are echoes of past life relationships that still resonate in our subconscious awareness. The soul's memory and gradual awakening. Does the soul preserve the memory of all its past incarnations? According to Yogananda, the answer is profoundly affirmative. Each experience, each lesson, each relationship is indelibly imprinted on what he called the soul's subtle consciousness. However, these memories reside in levels of consciousness too refined to be accessible during ordinary waking consciousness. It is only through deep practice of meditation, spiritual contemplation, and the development of intuition that the soul can begin to access these sacred records. This is one of the reasons why Yogananda so emphasized the importance of regular spiritual practice. It not only connects us with the divine in the present, but gradually allows us to access the accumulated wisdom of all our past existences. Many spiritual seekers, during deep states of meditation, have experienced glimpses of past lives, not as fantasies or imaginations, but as authentic memories that bring understanding and healing to current life patterns. Signs of old souls. Yogananda described certain characteristics that may indicate that a soul has passed through many incarnations and has reached a significant level of spiritual evolution. Natural compassion, an innate capacity to understand and empathize with others' suffering, without needing to have personally experienced every type of pain. Wise detachment, the ability to participate fully in life while maintaining an elevated perspective that is not excessively disturbed by the inevitable ups and downs of earthly existence. Early spiritual seeking, a deep yearning for spiritual truths that manifests from childhood or adolescence, without obvious external influence. Innate talents, extraordinary abilities in arts, sciences, or spiritual wisdom that seem to arise naturally without extensive training. Emotional maturity, emotional stability, and practical wisdom that exceeds what would normally be expected based on chronological age and current life experiences. The final destiny, liberation. The ultimate goal of all incarnations, according to Yogananda, is not simply to improve life circumstances or accumulate pleasant experiences, but to achieve what he called moksha, or final liberation from the cycle of birth and death. This liberation does not mean annihilation or loss of individuality. On the contrary, it represents the complete realization of the true self, the recognition that the individual soul is a unique and imperishable expression of universal divine consciousness. Souls that reach this state of realization no longer need to reincarnate by karmic compulsion. They may choose to return to physical existence as teachers or avatars to help other souls on their evolutionary journey, but they do so from a state of complete freedom, not necessity. How to prepare for our own journey. Knowing these mysteries should not fill us with fear of death, but inspire us to live more consciously. Yogananda offered practical advice for preparing for our eventual post-mortem journey. Regular spiritual practice, daily meditation, study of sacred texts, and sincere prayer familiarize us with states of consciousness we will experience after death. Cultivation of detachment, learning to love without possessing, to enjoy without clinging, and to participate in life while maintaining an elevated spiritual perspective. Selfless service, acts of service and charity that purify the heart and create positive karma that will accompany us beyond this life. Forgiveness and reconciliation, resolving conflicts, forgiving offenses, and healing broken relationships while we still have the opportunity to do so on the physical plane. Study of spiritual wisdom, familiarizing ourselves with the teachings of great masters like Yogananda provides us with maps to navigate post-mortem territories. The eternal message of hope. As we conclude this exploration of the soul's mysteries, let us remember that Yogananda's fundamental message is one of infinite hope and unconditional love. Death is not a tragedy but a graduation. It is not a permanent separation but a sacred transformation. Each soul that departs from this world continues its eternal journey toward complete realization of its divine nature. And each of us, in our designated moment, will undertake this same sacred journey. Meanwhile, let us live with the awareness that we are eternal souls having a temporary human experience. Let us treat each day as an opportunity to grow, serve, love, and awaken. And when our moment to depart arrives, we will be able to do so with the serenity of those who have lived consciously and are prepared for the great journey that awaits us. May these sacred teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda illuminate your path and fill you with peace, wisdom, and unconditional love toward all beings who share with you this mysterious and beautiful journey we call existence. Take a moment now to remember with love those who have departed before you. Send them your blessing, and commit in your heart to live in such a way that when your hour comes, you can depart in peace toward the eternal light that is your true home.